Hi there, I'm Magpie, and it's been a year since I released my first video on YouTube, and a little over 6 months since I started doing videos regularly. And so I thought it would be fun for the channel anniversary, at least for me, but hopefully for you, to talk about a little bit about the history of the channel, a little bit about what I've learned, and a little bit about where I think I'm going. And so I'll start with the history. This channel actually goes back, the idea, to 2019, where I originally was going to call it Leaving the Lamppost, in reference to the streetlight fallacy, which is also a Nasruddin story, who is a famous folkloric character in the Turco-Persian tradition. And this is from one of his most famous stories, is a story about riding his donkey backwards. But there's another story about him that is also told about just a generic drunkard, so there's a drunkard fumbling around under a streetlight, and someone comes up to him and asks, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I'm looking for my keys." So the stranger helps him for a while, then says, "Are you sure you lost your keys here?" And the drunkard says, "No, I lost them over there, but this is where the light is." Because I had realized, and I've talked about this in a few videos, that this is how we tend to handle knowledge, is we tend to say, okay, what gives us the most specific information and what can we do with it? Which I think, like Nasruddin on his donkey, is getting things backwards. I think the right approach is to be asking, what actually matters to know, and what is the best information can we get on it? Because really good information that is irrelevant is noise that gives us the illusion of confidence, whereas even merely okay information that is relevant actually is useful. And that's sort of what I've been figuring out, sort of part of this channel. And then part of the reason I was thinking about doing YouTube seriously is because I was unemployed, and I've been unemployed for over a year at that point. And I was thinking about stuff I could do, and this channel was actually like third down my priority list because it was the one that I could see the least path to monetizing it. I had two others I wanted to do, one of which would have been like a maps channel on like world building and alternate history, one of which would have been my folk arts and crafts channel, which I have a few videos up on that, and I'd like to make some more, but I mostly did that as a portfolio for a company I wanted to work at, sort of. And so anyway, so I had 6 years where I was thinking about doing YouTube channels, but I hadn't actually done anything really. I've written a bunch of scripts like over the years, mostly unfinished, and then didn't really know where to go for there, and a lot of them I even struggled to finish the scripts. And then I had 6 months where I was releasing less than a video a month, and they were all scripted videos. And then now I've had another 6 months where I have been actually updating and releasing regularly. And so anyways, the reason I ended up starting doing this channel was actually before I was thinking about getting laid off. I had an idea for a startup I wanted to do, which was book related. And I was going to make a video that I never actually did about how I got scooped on that, but I was still feeling good about it, because the people who scooped me on it, they were a team of 9 people with a lot of experience, and I think I could have done it on a shoestring budget if I'd had the time and done it, but I just, for a number of reasons, I didn't pursue that. And I was thinking, well, how can I get the audience that I could kickstart this? And so I was like, I could make this channel idea that I had into a booktube channel, which the woman who runs the writing group I used to attend now, she kept advising me a number of times, like, you should start a blog or a YouTube channel talking about books because you read so much. And I was like, well, what do I have to say that people would want to hear, was sort of my thought, especially on science fiction fantasy, because like I'd seen booktube channels, and there are people like Daniel Green who are very like in the space and reading what's current, and I just don't do that. And so I sort of had it click where I'm like, I could do like these questions I'm interested in, but do it as a booktube channel. And so I wrote the script for Listen to My Father's Library before I learned that there were going to be layoffs happening at my company. And then I tried to record it a couple times. I wasn't happy. And then I learned about layoffs, and I was like, well, I might get laid off, and if I am, I'll try to do this and try to start a consulting business. And so this was one of the several things that I was trying to do, get it started. And I look back on my scripted videos, especially some of the earlier ones, and it's like, I've definitely got better at presentation. It's also way easier to do this talking off the cuff for me. And so aside from the first 4 videos and Guns, Germs, and Steel, which are scripted, I have a few videos where I'll have like notes, hey, remember to say this. And then otherwise they're completely off the cuff because that's just easier for me to do. But I will sometimes go back and I'll add stuff. And so then I had 6 months where I was having a hard time putting out videos because they took so much energy to get a script I was happy with, and then to record it, I would generally do like 3.5 times as long as the video because I kept redoing takes, stumbling over my own words. And then I had to edit it all down. And so generally, like at a minimum, these videos would take me 10 hours and typically longer. Whereas now, the maximum for these videos is typically 3 hours for the video production. And then I might spend like an hour and a half at most prepping it for YouTube. And so then I started uploading daily off-the-cuff videos. And so initially when I was doing these off-the-cuff videos, I was just talking about stuff that I either already talked about on my blog or that I had written about on my blog, wasn't happy with the final result. But I'm like, okay, I think I have an idea for a video I can talk about here. And that was partly because like I realized I think best in terms of like working things out when I'm having a conversation with someone who knows what I'm talking about and can contribute. Next best when I'm talking with someone who doesn't really know but can still ask enough pertinent questions. And then next best, like writing, like typing with my hands, but I screwed them up a while ago, so I use speech to text, which is much harder and more tedious to actually do writing. And something I've realized now is I've gotten used to actually talking to the camera conversationally, and now it's a lot easier. It's more like talking to someone who doesn't really have anything to say, at least immediately, than it is like trying to write out blog posts. And so I did that, and I've done pretty well. Although this is, I should mention, even though I wasn't really doing a lot, like in those 6 years, I was still thinking about what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do and sort of looking at channels that way. And then once I started actually making videos, I started looking at channels differently. That's something I've really noticed is there's a big difference looking at YouTube when you've started creating videos versus when you are just watching, even if you think you want to create videos. And then there's a difference again between occasionally creating videos and actually seriously doing it reliably. And I watched back last year a few videos on channel growth, and one of the most common things I would see would be something to the effect of, in order to see if what you're going to do on YouTube works, you're going to need to do at least 100 videos. And I was like, well, I can't imagine doing 100 videos with this production method and no results. And I realized, okay, well, what I have to figure out how to do is to do it in a way that is less effortful so I can actually make 100 videos, which I did. And by that time, I got monetized in the first month after I started doing videos daily, which is pretty good result. Especially, I had 20 subscribers, at least 3 of whom are people I know personally, probably more, when I started doing daily videos. So almost all of my growth has come since I started doing daily videos. And one thing I knew going into this is that YouTube growth is very much nonlinear, and growth is driven by a few successful videos, which I had noticed this in other creators, especially once I started doing my own videos, because I started watching subscriber counts, and I would notice they would say static, and then they'd have a good video and up, and then sort of flat again. But I didn't realize how much of this is. Like, basically, the majority of my subscribers and basically all the money I've made on YouTube, which is not a lot, have come from my half dozen best performing videos. And I sort of got lucky in that my first real breakout video, I had sort of a couple of mini breakouts. The Great Gatsby was the one that did best in my scripted videos, but got 300 views. And then my video on why Borges, Baudrillard, and Foucault are hard in different ways got 8,000 views. But the first video that really did numbers that got people coming back was my gender video. And that was one that I almost didn't release because it felt too personal, too self-indulgent. And I was like, is anyone going to want to watch this one? And I only released it because I was sick and I was running out of unedited stuff. And I'm like, well, I already edited this one. I should just release it. So, and I haven't been able to replicate that success since, but I have had a few other videos that have gotten tens of thousands of views since. And something I've realized is it's obviously not really predictable what's going to do well at all for me. But what is clear is that I need a good title. And every video that has sort of been a breakout video has been a video that I've done the A/B titles and it has won early and by like 65% or more. And it's also clear that I know some videos are just definitely not going to be breakout videos. And those videos typically, they don't like tank my channel, but they do underperform, and I have a sense of what that is and how. And so anyways, looking at the success of the gender video, I assumed I would replicate something like that again to that level or more in this time, which hasn't happened. So I was talking about, like, I was gonna think about doing like people asked for a bookshelf tour video at 25,000, which now I've decided, by the way, I'm gonna do my craft room, the books in here, that's about a third of the books in my house, 25,000. And then my bedroom and bedroom closet at 50,000. And then depending on where I am, either 75 or 100,000 with the downstairs, which is going to be the most annoying to try to film. But anyways, I was saying I'll see if I'll do it at 25 or 50,000 depending on where my subscribers were, because I was thinking that that would scale, and it hasn't. But again, I'm still, like, something I notice is I'm still doing pretty well, and some of this is that I've thought about it a good deal, but some of it is also people have different approaches, and especially in BookTube, like, a lot of people on BookTube use it as basically YouTube, people call it social media, and for me, it's never really been social media. It's always been a content platform first and foremost, but a lot of people on BookTube really do use it as sort of a social media thing, and so, like, a lot of small BookTube channels, I'll see channels that have like 1,000, 2,000 videos and maybe 2,000 subscribers. And you look at them, what you realize is they're doing it as social media. They're doing it to sort of connect with other people on BookTube, which has never, that was never my approach. My approach, as I've always said from the beginning, is I'm using this channel as a platform. I'm trying to, really two things. I'm trying to test my ideas and refine them and figure out what works that I could maybe leverage into something that I could make money with, and that I have enough of a kernel of people who might buy things that if I make them, that if I actually make something good, people will spread that by word of mouth. And originally, the idea, as I mentioned, was for this company idea that I was going to try to kickstart that I mentioned I got scooped on, but I'm still feeling good about that, and I might eventually make that video. But anyways, so that's sort of been the 2 points of the channel, but I'm still, like, I'm looking at, and I'm realizing it seems like people sort of end up having 3 motivations for doing YouTube from what I see, broadly speaking, which are they're doing it for, this is interesting to me and I want to talk about it. They're doing it because I want an audience of people to watch me, and they're doing it because I want to make money from YouTube. And for me, it's sort of a balance of those first two, really. If I could make money from YouTube, it's great, but again, ad revenue has been, it paid my electric bills initially, and now it's not even doing that. But it's not negligible. Like, I appreciate what I'm making, but it's not nearly enough to cover my expenses. But that was never the point for me, because I'd already seen, because I've been thinking about this in 2019, how creators had talked about ad revenue keeps going down on YouTube. Like, there will always be something, and then it will go down. So I'm like, you really can't count on it, 'cause you're going to need to have more and more success to make same amount of money, and people just get burnt out on it. And I like doing different things. I wouldn't want to spend all my time making videos anyways. And so for me, it's been, again, trying to build an audience to test ideas and to eventually have sort of people to, if I have a product that's good, hopefully spread the word, or a service, I guess, too. And I've been balancing that against, I'm still only doing videos about things that interest me. And fortunately or unfortunately, I have so many things I would like to make videos or write blog posts about that I just don't, I will never have the time and energy to do it. In fact, I've been thinking about, because I generally read 2 to 5 books most weeks, and not all of them are worth talking about, but if you notice, except for when I was doing a video a day, just I was outpacing how many videos I make by how many books I read. But the thing is, I'm making videos about the interactions between books and ideas like related to books, so there's way more, like, the scaling is exponential. And so I'm trying to, like, when I do this, I'm looking and I'm trying to figure out, what do I want to talk about that people might actually have an interest in, while also looking at, does there seem to be something here that I could potentially do something with, sort of money-wise? And so, yeah, so that's been sort of the story of what I've been doing here and how. And again, I notice once you start creating videos, like actually creating them reliably as a creator, like, I could speculate, like, one of the earliest comments I got in my videos was, hey, I'm so glad you respond to all your comments. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this long after I'm monetized. And indeed, even before I got monetized, I realized I was not able to keep up with comments without spending too much time and energy and burning myself out. I also realized when it comes to comments, like, they affect me differently. Like, outright hostile negative comments, sometimes they sting a bit, but they're generally not the things that will unsettle me. Typically, comments that unsettle me, they're either comments where people are what I call sort of bad faith engagement, where they are trying to, they have a narrative they want to sell you, and they're trying to engage you on their talking points. And I just, like, the way I was raised, I have a hard time, because people are sincere about, they want to convince you. So the sincerity shines through, and I want to engage with them. And also, there's no point, because they're just trying to sell me on their talking points, and it's hard to, I mean, they've gotten easier, but it's frustrating to resist that. I can also be put off by if I get really dumb comments that get upvoted, and I'm like, wait, am I missing what's going on here? And the comments that actually end up unsettling me the most, aside from the sort of bad faith, I want to push my agenda comments, are the ones that actually are way too positive just especially generically, because it's like I have no idea how I can live up to this. I don't think I live up to this now, much less I don't think I can. And it's vague, right? And so I mean, if I think I'd always be like that. So if you want to leave positive comments, and I sometimes read them, but not as much as I did, specifics are always better. If you want me to actually see your comments, I'm still doing another live stream in August, which I'll schedule before this comes out, hopefully. And that's going to be the Saturday after August 11th, that would have been my father's 70th birthday, August 11th, but I'm doing something that evening. So it's the Saturday after that, going to be, I think, 9 a.m. Central Time. And those are still small enough, and I recognize a lot of the people in them now, so that's fun for me. And I'll keep doing it until it's no longer fun, which is probably going to be when it gets big enough to actually be successful to stream. I would never be a good streamer because I just don't think I could enjoy doing that with that size of like audience. So while they're small, though, it's nice to do. And so the other thing is, like, now that I'm doing this, like, before I started doing a channel, I left maybe a dozen comments in like over a decade watching YouTube. After I started doing a channel, I started leaving comments a lot more frequently. And you might think it's because of, creators appreciate comments, which, I mean, I do, but it's generally, and I sort of mentioned, I had sort of a bit of a almost steak is too juicy, lobster too buttery situation where people were providing so many thought-provoking comments that I could not keep up with giving them the kind of answers that I wanted to. But the main thing is just when I'm thinking about it in terms of my channel, I'm suddenly having ideas that I'm like, I need to sort of write this out and respond to it. And so a lot of the comments I leave on other people's channels are me working through something that I might want to make a video or write a blog post about. And a lot of these people engage with me, which I appreciate. Anyways, so yeah, I think that sort of covered history of the channel, what I've learned, and where I'm going. Again, I sort of got to that of the goal long term is I want to figure out how to make self-employment work, and I want to be doing something. And initially, I was thinking, well, I need to be an entrepreneur because that's what a lot of these books are on. That's what it scales. In terms of like making a business that's more focused on the business side of things, and I'm still going to be making a business, but now I'm thinking I ruled out trying to do like more creative focused stuff because that's more competitive, because it's more zero sum. But I'm realizing that is ultimately where I have the motivation to do stuff. And so I've actually been trying to draw more because I'm going to make a store and I'm going to see if I can like have merchandise that might sell. I'm also going to, as I refine these ideas, I probably will write a book, which I was initially putting off doing. I don't know when, can't say what it will be at this point. I have some ideas that I'm sort of toying with. And I also have my consulting page, which long story on that, but because I used an email address that was for my website, but it doesn't work very well. And so I realized I actually missed some people who messaged me that I'm going to get back to them. But if you want to message me, I now just have my Gmail address for the channel also on the consulting page. But anyways, yeah, so going forward, I don't know specifically what I'm going to do because it's still me trying to figure out what is going to get me closer to doing something that is going to earn me an income in a way that is sustainable for me, which I think is going to have to be something that motivates me. But I can sort of see patterns that people, like the videos that do best seem to be videos on perspectivism, videos on what I would call like self-help from non-self-help books, and videos on sort of political science-y topics. And so we'll see. I don't want to try to become a political science channel because I think there's so many people who can do that better. I feel like my strength generally is I'm a generalist. I'm someone who is in the cracks between like ideas that a lot of people wouldn't think to combine. And that's what I think I sort of need to focus on. But anyways, again, I'm Magpie. And if you want to support me, I have Amazon affiliate links in the description and a Ko-Fi. Oh, and I didn't mention, but the reason I still don't have a Patreon is because the reason I made this channel 6 years ago was Patreon was like going to grandfather you in if you made your Patreon account and launch it before a certain deadline. And so I made this channel and launched that Patreon, and then they disabled it and removed the grandfathering, and I have sort of a grudge against that. And I probably will eventually make a Patreon at some point, but right now, I appreciate the people doing Ko-Fi and I have Discord. It's not enough to actually think it's worth setting up a Patreon. And I'm trying to figure out what could I actually maybe sell as opposed to asking for donations on another platform. So anyways, thanks for watching. I'm Magpie, and I'll see y'all in the next one, and hopefully for years to come.